So we finally got some of the new vegetation models that we're going to be using in WolfQuest 3. These are made by Kerry who's one of the very best vegetation artists working in the Unity world right now, and we're super excited to have him making our vegetation for us. So first here we've got Idaho Fescue, which is by far, I think, the most common bunch grass that you'll see if you're hiking around in Yellowstone. We've got several versions here, the spring version, the summer version with the seed heads, and then the fall version. And we've also got mountain big sagebrush, which is one of the common types of sagebrush in Yellowstone. Here we've got the spring and the fall versions that are little different colors. Now these don't look that great because they don't have the right shaders on them that we use when we plant them on the terrain. So let's get them on the terrain and see how they look. We plant the grasses using the same tool, Terrain Composer, that we used in the Texturing the Terrain video to paint all the ground textures onto the terrain. It has a section for grass as well. So I've set this up with this initial set of grass and sagebrush models. So here I can select which of the terrain textures this Idaho fescue grass should be planted on. And I've done the same thing for the larger versions of the Idaho fescue grass. I put it on that's the kind of the dry brown grass. This is the kind of gravelly texture, and this sets the angle. So it says, you can see the little minus here, it says don't plant this grass on any slopes steeper than 29 degrees. So that's to prevent it from being on the cliffs and the steep slopes. So I set all these up. So we have this initial set of 4 grasses and then generate it, and it all gets planted on the terrain. So then we can switch into the terrain view and see what that looks like. Here we have the terrain, the Amethyst terrain down in Lamar Valley, much like we saw it at the end of the Texturing the Terrain video a few months ago. So let's activate the grass that we just planted. Okay, there's a lot of grass there. It doesn't look great, but we have it on the ground. The lighting is just so flat on it because the grass blades are really too thin and fine to cast shadows. So there's special techniques used in all games to recreate the look of lighting in very small, delicate surfaces. It's called Ambient Occlusion. So I'm going to turn that on here. So that looks much better, doesn't it? You can see the grass is not just flat, one-dimensional, but it's actually has some light and dark because just the natural way light bounces off objects. If there's objects close to each other, they don't get as much light. We can use another special effect that actually does give the appearance of actually shadows cast within and on objects. So if we turn that on, this is to plugin called Next Generation Screen Shadows. That looks a whole lot better, doesn't it? You can really see, first of all, it's casting shadows on the ground, it's casting shadows inside the plant bushes themselves. But the colors are a little bit off now that we start to add this stuff. We really want it to look like it's, part of the environment. The colors match the ground colors. So let's do some tweaks here. Okay, I can do one more occlusion thing that just gives it a little bit more definition. There we go. So we can adjust the colors on these things. So the sage, I can bring the sage way down. That's probably not the color we want for this game. Might actually just be the darker color we want to adjust there. Give it a little more softness there. And especially we want to adjust the grasses. The fescue is really too dark now. So we can go in and adjust those colors. So again, we can kind of go crazy here, but we don't want to do that. That's a little too far in the other direction. We want to give it a bit of color, but not too much. So you can spend hours tweaking these things if you want. Don't really want to spend hours, but I probably have at this point. Anyway, so still needs probably some tweaks, but that's looking pretty good now. You can see sage has got certain patterns, especially on certain kinds of soil. The grasses, the shorter, the taller fescue. We'll add some other things in here. We'll get some rabbitbrush in here like in the old game, but looking better. And it'll be just a much more interesting environment to run around in.